Hello and welcome to Dune Awakening. And my name is Spanj, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today is going to be a short video just showing you through the build options here in Dune. Now, first of all, I would admit that the build options that I have are limited because I'm still very early in the game. But these are the build options you'll get from very early in the game, and even these ones are pretty extensive. Now, if you are familiar with my channel, you'll know that I quite like building. And I quite like games with building mechanics in them. I like to build big, stupid bases, or in some cases, starships, and all sorts of things. So I'm quite interested in the building mechanics in Dune here. Now, they are limited to just bases. Unfortunately, I can't go and build a spaceship and leave the planet or anything like that. And the vehicles are all kind of very much like Lego, snapped together, predetermined pieces. So I don't really count that as building. Anyway, when you first get into Dune, the first base you'll probably build is something like this, a sort of 3x3 box that is just enough to get you started. But once you get started, and you get some of the basic workbenches up and stuff, you start building for real. So let's have a look at the options. Now, when you first want to build a base, the first thing that you have to build is something called a subfief console. And it's kind of like the core, if you will, of your base. It's how all bases start. But when you select this, you'll notice, if you look really carefully, there's a really faint kind of cube outlined around it. And you can rotate it by holding Alt and then mouse wheel. And you can rotate it depending on the terrain around you. So you want to look at the terrain and make sure that your box, which is your build area here, sort of fits in where you want the base to fit in. And you can see the sort of hologram around me. You'll also notice that if I try and build too close to another player's base, it doesn't let you. And you know, you don't really want to build next to another player's base anyway, because they may want to expand, you might want to expand. But yes, this is the build area, so you've got to be very careful where you lay it out, and obviously pay attention to the rotation. Now, in terms of where to build, you will need to build in one of these sort of rocky outcrop areas like you see here. This is quite a nice area, actually, because it's got a nice bit of flat land here. This looks a little bit like open sand, but because of the proximity of the rocks here, it is actually safe from the sandworms. So I can build quite nicely here, and it's a quite decent-sized area for a decent sized base. So I've already placed my subfief in this little base right here. Now I can move that later. All the displaceables and stuff can be moved later really easily, so that's not a problem. But let's just quickly select some blocks here. Now I'll go through all the tabs and stuff a bit later, but let me just grab some foundations. I wanted to show you that when you grab a bit of sort of foundation or wall or whatever, and you take it off of an existing base like this, you can actually rotate it completely independently of the subfief's build area. It's not on a grid, but if you do build at, say, like a jaunty angle to where your subfief's rotation, you're potentially limiting the amount of build that you can do. And so it is really important to get that rotation correct when you place the subfief console to maximize your build area potential. So if you place it wonky and then you build to the terrain, you're potentially cutting yourself off fairly badly. But anyway, so if we just go up here and we can use the controls. The controls are in the right hand side of the screen there if you want to have a look, but you can rotate, you can raise it up and down, all sorts of things. Place once to place a hologram, and then click and hold to then build that piece. So you can build the entire base in just holograms, and then add the resources later, which is lovely. So from a multiplayer point of view, you could have one person building and everybody else going around and fetching the resources for. And because it's proxy crafting and proxy building even, they just need to jump it into a box. They don't even need to give it to you or anything. As long as it's in a box within that subfief area, you can use it. So I'm just going to place down some foundations here, but as you can see along the bar at the bottom, I've got a sort of angled foundation there. What I'm going to try and do is almost do like a little kind of a peninsula part of the base here. I'm in a bit of a gorge, so I figured I'd have like one of these little peninsula things on both sides and then a hangar bay in the middle, something like that. So I'm just going to start. I'm going to chuck some foundations down. I need to rotate them so they're the right way. I'm still getting the hang of the controls. I got to say it's a little bit well, like anything new, it takes a while to get used to, doesn't it? But you go scroll through. You've got R to open up the full list of the blocks, which then have their own tabs within tabs. And it can be a little overwhelming and a little confusing when you first start looking through these build menus. You have a favorites bar, which you can obviously tailor and add things and take things off and stuff like that. So you have like sort of quick access to that. And then, like I say, all the controls are down the right-hand side there. You've got build. You've got a piece picker, which is one of my favorite features of building here in Dune. The piece picker, obviously, you just select that and then click on a block. It essentially says, okay, that's the block you want to build. It then automatically switches to that block. You can then place that block instantly. It's very, very convenient, very useful. And then you've got things like move and destroy and stuff like that as well. So it's all there in the build tool. But at the top of the change set menu, which is the R button I mentioned, you've got other tabs at the top there, those little icons you just saw me click on there, and that's where you get all your placeables and your furniture. And furniture in particular, you have to actually buy from a trader. You don't get them by default, so you have to actually buy the sets. So when you first open that sort of build menu, it might be confusing because you're like, where the hell are the actual blocks? Where the hell are my furniture? It's all in those little icons at the top there. And you've also got, like I said before, favorites tab, which if you go through, you have to remove and then hit F on the piece you want to add it back again. And you're probably only going to want to add so much to that before it basically becomes completely sort of unwieldy anyway, and you may as well go into the full R menu with all the bits and pieces and stuff in there anyway. So you're going to be adding and subtracting a lot from the favorites bar, or what I found myself doing is not using it at all and just going straight into R. So, yeah, you know, each to their own and all that. Now, here's a big tip for building. Watch your sun meter. If you're building during the day and you're sort of engrossed in the menus, you might suddenly find you've got heat stroke, which of course absolutely tanks your water. And, you know, if you leave it long enough, can even kill you. So anyway, let's do a little bit of building here. I'm just going to pop myself in the shade. Sun's over there, so I can pop myself basically here while I peruse things. But yeah, I'm just going to sort of build some foundations out here. The real sort of basis of the of the one side of this building, I suppose. And you can see when you're placing the holograms, you're placing them into the ground a bit. They can get a little fiddly. They can get a little hard to do. And you've already seen, I mean, I've placed blocks where I didn't mean to as well. So there's definitely some like minor little, I would say, nuances with the building tools here and placing things. But essentially what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to build a sort of, like I said before, peninsula along there, and then I'm going to build down and across this area, and then I'll build another peninsula on the other side. And in the middle is going to be a ramp up into a nice hangar bay with two sort of overlooking walls either side of it, kind of like a grand entrance sort of thing, I suppose. And so once again, like I mentioned before, as you can see, I'm building this all in holograms. I'm not actually doing anything yet. I'm placing all the blocks down. One thing to note, when it does actually come time to start adding resources to all these holograms and actually build the blocks themselves, you have to start at the bottom up. One thing that the game does really, really nicely is that the blocks that are dependent on others for support, it won't actually let you build those. And they appear as a slightly duller hologram. So, you know, the main ones at the bottom, the ones that you can build are sort of brighter green, and the ones that need support are a sort of duller color, which is really, really nice. I really like that. Then I'm just going to add some ramps at the bottom there for vehicles to drive up to into the hangar bay. But I think you get the general sort of gist of the building here. Place holograms and then build up. So let's actually start adding some materials to all this. So start adding some stuff. What? Nope, didn't mean that one. Demolish that one, please. And I think it did the one behind as well. Oops. But yeah, let's actually start adding some materials to all this stuff. And you can see that back in. Thank you very much. There you go. I don't know what happened there. It took the materials, it didn't build the block. We'll just ignore that. Everything's fine. But yeah, there you go. We've run out of materials. There you go. So, yeah. Now we need to go out and get some more. But yeah, like I said before, it is all proxy building. So it's Kind of difficult to keep track of how much materials you got, but the game's very good at telling you you've run out. But if you don't have the granite stone, as we can see in the box there, that's it. You've got to go out and do some grinding. So let's go and get some stone. There's actually some just over there. There's resources everywhere. It's pretty easy to just go out and grind on foot, and later on in the game you can get other tools and stuff, vehicles even, that can speed up mining like crazy. And of course, if you are playing in a group, then you know, you got more mouths to feed, but yeah, you can go ahead and get more stone much quicker and easier. But yeah, there's our little suspensor belt, making things very easy and very nice. But one thing to note is those foundation blocks, each one of those costs 15 stone. I think we got like, oh, hello. I think we got like 70 or so from one rock. So yeah, it goes quick. It goes quick. But you can get more efficient mining tools and stuff, which, like I say, can speed it up a bit. Anyway, here's one I built earlier, or rather later, after all that grinding and stuff. Yeah, it's basically, like I said, two sort of peninsulas around Hangar Bay, and this would probably be big enough for maybe 2-3 player team, and you could easily expand it. I've kept the top completely flat in order to do just that. We can build upwards and add more stuff as we need to, and extra storage for vehicles and so on and so forth. But there's plenty of room inside and stuff, but the basic principle is, yeah, you've got two sort of buildings around a hangar in the middle, and you just sort of drive into the middle here, and you can drive straight through and out the other side. So nice easy access on both sides of the base. So I moved everything from my my little base in here, and then with all the furniture stuff that I had unlocked, I've managed to make this little sort of bedroom setup here, which, yeah, there's not a lot going on, but I only had like one set. So yeah, great thing about Dune is, you know, you can move everything. You can move absolutely everything really easily. So the sub 5 console, which was in the middle, back of the original base, I've moved over there. But that doesn't move the build area. Once you place the sub 5, the build area is kind of locked, and then you can move the console itself anywhere you need to. So really, really nice. And yeah, it's a little bit Spartan, I'll admit, but I don't have access to all that many things. But there's plenty of room in here. Add and grow as need be. Speaking of expanding, let's have a look at the research tree briefly, and we can see the sort of things that we might be able to unlock and add. So if you want to increase the size of the base, there's the staking unit there, and you use that to basically increase the size of the claim area, that sort of hologrammy, force fieldy cube that we saw at the beginning. And then there's just a bunch of extra things that we haven't even unlocked yet, as you can see, that we can expand the base with. And don't forget also vehicles. We need to be able to store vehicles in there. You can store up to 10 vehicles in your backup tool, but you can't store them if they've got anything in their inventories. So if they have stuff, you can't back them up. But there's loads of stuff here. And this isn't probably all of it either. This is probably just what's available in the beta build right now. So yeah, lots of room is what you're going to need. Lots of expansion potential is what you're going to need as well. Because you're going to want to build it early, but you can't build the base you need by the end straight away, if you know what I mean, because you don't really necessarily know what you need. So build with expansion in mind, place your base with expansion in mind, and you can build up as you go. But there's going to be plenty to keep you occupied and continue building throughout your Dune experience, that's for sure. Obviously, I've only got access here to the very basics of items. Now, you have all the shapes available, but I've only got two. I've got Comb Shelter and Chome Facility, and I've only managed to unlock the decorations from two of the traders. So this is what's capable and what's possible with what you get right at the beginning of the game. But yeah, building in Dune, it's actually pretty good. The only frustration really was sort of fiddly bits with getting the blocks in the ground, as we saw earlier, and having to go out and grind all the resources, but that's just probably me being lazy. I don't want to have to go out and get this stuff, I just want to build, damn it. But no, it's pretty good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're going to add to the building options. and stuff, all the extra decorative bits and stuff like that. I'd love to know what you guys think down in the comments, so let me know. And also any questions that you may have, and I will do my best to answer. Let's fill that comment section up. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you liked the video, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.